The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks very much for joining us for our webinar today with Chris Abraham on how to engage bloggers down the long tail blogger outreach, also as it's known. And really happy to have Chris doing this first webinar with us. Chris has been writing for Social Media Monthly for a while now and has been getting much more involved with the publication. So Chris, great to have you here. Just a very brief intro for Chris. Chris Abraham is a leading expert in digital, including online reputation management, internet privacy, social media marketing, and digital PR, with a focus on blogger outreach, engagement, and crisis internet response. We will take questions. It's best if you type your question in the question window, but also you feel free to hold up your hand, and if it's manageable, we might take the question via voice, but it's best to type them in first. And from here, I'm going to hand it over to you, Chris, and making you the presenter.
Show my screen. Voila. Can you see it?
Yep, looks great.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. My name's Chris Abraham, and I am all those things that Bob said I was. Today, we're going to be going over what I call long-tail blogger outreach, but could be called any number of other things, deep penetration, engagement, and all kinds of other phrases. But what that means is essentially going a lot deeper into the conversation and a little bit lower into the hierarchy of bloggers and influencers than most other people do in order to get accrue as much earned media mentions as possible. So for today, we're using the hashtag LTBO. My Twitter is at Chris Abraham. You can also have my Google+, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And please feel free to contact me. I should have even put my email address down here, and I think I do that at the end of the webinar. But here we go. Today, like Bob said, I am an active blogger and contributor to the Huffington Post, Social Media Biz, Biznology, Social Media Monthly, and the Startup Monthly. I am principal consultant at Garris. I guess I'm also the CEO, but that's such a grandiose term. I'm much more practical than that and like to get my hands dirty. So this all stems from my personal philosophy. Until I became an online marketer and digital PR guy back in 2003, I was a technologist. Bob and I have very similar origin stories where we started being developers, application developers, web developers, and so forth. And I took a left into the dirty arts of PR and marketing, and Bob went noble with publishing. But in 1999, I read a book that changed my life. It's called The Clue Train Manifesto, and it believes that the internet has allowed everything to turn upside down. The story 1984 where they have the giant head who dictates what's happening in your entire world, the equivalent of everybody speaking to us, the CEO of General Electric speaking to us from the dais. That's no longer the case. While we're being spoken to from the Oval Office, or when we're being spoken to via a investors conference call, we can be chatting with each other, we can be live tweeting, we can be live blogging. There's no way of controlling the message anymore. The many are in many ways as influential as the few, but not singly en masse. So the way to activate the many, in addition or instead of the tech editor at the Wall Street Journal, or Mr. Mossberg at his new site, is to go ahead and find hundreds of people who can share their excitement over your message, your news, your product, your service, your launch, And in many ways, that can bubble up. So if you don't have access to the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Mashable, um, TechCrunch, there are other ways of kind of bubbling up into the conversation, which is perceived and experienced as more organically. So the Clue Train Manifesto says, this is the 83rd of the 95 Theses, we wanted to take 50 million of us, we want you to take 50 million of us as seriously as you take one reporter from the Wall Street Journal. Those 50 million people are hungry and thirsty for engagement. They may sit a little bit lower. They don't get pitched every day. They don't receive a dozen emails the way Bob does saying, cover my product, review my book, etc. Once you go a little bit deeper, you actually have a blogosphere that's more like the pre-2006 elections, a blogosphere that is more earnest, a little bit more excited about the work, about getting a voice, and a little bit less jaded in terms of entering into a world where people fight over their cloud scores. The secret here, though, is you need to find people where they live. You need to discover them, whether it's a influencer on Reddit, someone deep in a message board or forum, someone who is not necessarily the person who tweets the most, but the person who retweets the most. You need to be able to not just look for them on the cloud website. You need to get creative, and you need to find them where they live. And another secret, spoiler alert, is that you need to treat everybody that you talk to with as much care as you would Guy Kawasaki. I chose Guy Kawasaki because you all know him. Could be, you know, whoever else. Generally, names start with either Peter or Chris, it seems, in this space. And be grateful, because this is earned media outreach. Nobody is expected to help you, and it's becoming more profound as the middle class, as the B2D listers are finding more and more empowerment in asking for pay-per-post, asking for advertising. They have price lists and so forth, and so you need to not, just because someone in your perception is plebeian, do not treat them in any way but with the utmost of respect. That goes a long way. When you should reach past the A-list, people are fighting over the top 25 in any one vertical. People are fighting, especially with tools like GroupHigh and InkyBee and Littlebird. People actually have more access to, the same thing happened with Vocus. Even, in fact, Vocus has made the top 100 influencers, 500 influencers of any one vertical, a feeding frenzy. So if you do not have, if you're not selling, promoting, pitching something that is already world-class, like a brand new Tesla vehicle, or something that is like, you know, giving away hotcakes, you need to become a little bit more resourceful and a little bit more creative. Out of those 25, maybe 3 will cover your story over the course of a campaign. That might be a great win if you get the New York Times, the Economist, and the Washington Post. But it's not a great win if people are spending tens of thousands of dollars on a campaign. So for us, we collect every blogger, and in the advert you might have seen the parentheses, every blog is sacred. Do not take any blog for granted. Even if someone just started a Tumblr 3 weeks ago, those are people who are more excited about the opportunity than ever. We collect all of them. It oftentimes ends up being, you know, between 3,000 and 6,000 blogs. We collect all of them into a universe. We lead with first name and email address. And then we reach out to every one of them via email. As I've progressed using tools like GroupHigh and digging a little bit deeper in terms of adding A-listers to my campaigns, I don't do everything by email. There can be upwards of a few hundred people who I reach out to via LinkedIn, via contact pages and so forth. But in general, the long tail, in order to reach 4,000 bloggers in a big punch of an outreach, you need to use email as a distribution tool. But, spamming 4,000, 5,000 people is where the work starts. So I'm going to go through everything in this presentation. I'm even going to give you a little gift, a almost free way of being able to reach out to upwards of 1,500 people via Google Docs, email a day. Whether you use such power is up to you. Actually, 200 mail merge emails via Google email, and 100 for free if you use Gmail, which is pretty great, and I'll show you that in a second. Why you should reach past the A-list. This initial blast is akin to speed dating. You don't need a personal relationship for every pitch. You need to find the right people, and if you find the right people, they'll respond well to you. But success relies on 5 things. You need freshness and quality of the list, because people go in and out of blogging all the time. You need the generosity of the gift. You need to give till it hurts. You need to really give. I've lost complete campaigns because my clients have been too stingy. They've done the math. They're like, you're reaching out to 4,000 people, and that's times $59 a year. I'm like, you're selling software. It doesn't cost you anything. You want to sell to 5 million people. Even if everybody in that 4,000 list took your software for a year, it would still be nothing compared to the 5 million people of paid subscribers that you want. People get really hung up on the gift. You need to give till it hurts. Otherwise, you're spending money on me, and I'm not giving you anything back. You need the ability of the email to reach the inbox. You need to be a charming bastard. You need to be responsive. And you need to follow up twice after the initial email outreach. And that's the secret. A lot of people are so afraid of bloggers that they'll reach out once, and then, they'll hear the chirping of crickets and they won't know what to do. Incidentally, the book next to here is Naked Conversation. Naked Conversation is a powerful book. It's also very old. Shel Israel and Robert Scoble wrote it, so you know it's good. Those are tin cans. Those are not bullet casings. And that's a thread between them, a cord between them. How blogs are changing the way businesses talk with customers. I think a lot of people have lost sight of it. I think you need to read Clue Train Manifesto, and you need to read this book. You need to go back to basics. A lot of you are too young for either of these books, so classics. All right, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog. A lot of you are too young maybe to even know this cartoon out of the New Yorker, but people don't know who you are. You start from zero. Even if you represent a super huge brand, it benefits you to kind of get to work on your own brand equity yourself, because if you reach out to someone like Guy Kawasaki and I know each other, we both grew up in Hawaii, I've been to his house in California, even if he doesn't want to, even if he can't review something, he'll always drop me a nice note. Building a personal brand, even if you don't have the equity of your parent brand, like, as I'll show you in the illustration I have on this webinar, I'm doing, I'll show you work that I did for Mizuno. Mizuno is awesome. It's a global brand, Japanese sports apparel and clothing and shoes and bats and so forth. But Mizuno running may be fetish objects for some really serious runners. And my job, with a certain amount of brand equity, but also with my own personal punch, I was able to really get the word out. If it were Brooks, Nike, it would have been much easier, possibly. But however, the quality of the gift and the quality of the brand also was indisputable. Campaign questions. Now, this is the stuff you need to do before you start the outreach. What is it you need to do? What's your accomplishment? Social media has a tendency to, it is what it is. I'm doing it because I'm doing it. I'm doing it because everybody else does it. I need a website, I need a Facebook page, I need a Google Plus page. Who needs a Google Plus page? I need a Twitter account, I need a strategy because otherwise I'll be behind everybody else. It's not true. You need to figure out what your goal is. You need to listen first. What are people looking for? Are people already talking about it? Are people already talking about you or your client? Where are they talking? Are they in Google Plus? Are they on Reddit? Are they hiding in a message board or forum? Who are these people talking? I mean, can you find them? Can you dig past their Reddit nom de guerre, nom de plume? Can you find can you break their anonymity? If you do that, will you piss them off? Can you find their email address? And then you need to collect your verticals. I call them universes. How do you connect with them? Do you need to connect with them via their contact page? Do they not check email? Are they worth the time? Or can you, include them in your 5,000 blogger mail merge blast? How's the best way to pitch? In my opinion, it's always best not to sell. I've made a couple mistakes over the last couple of years where I do a lot of sales for my company, Garris, and so I can't help it. Sometimes I just sound like a used car salesman. So I need to run it through two of my geekiest geeks, actually three, Philip Rhodes, Drac, and Dan Kruger, and they set me straight. I taught them the best way to do it, and they have memory banks, and they go ahead and they're like, you're selling this. This is direct marketing. You need to go ahead and find a way of making this a newsworthy pitch deserving of coverage. And then after you finish, how did you do? I know your client's going to want to know and your boss is going to know, but you need to find a way of being accountable. You need to show them why they spent the money, time, resources, and your time on something like this. Were there conversions? Were there sales? How did you move the chains? What do you want to accomplish? What are your goals? Do you want to build brand awareness, increase community engagement, prospect new brand ambassadors, drive sales, traffic, and membership, drive conversation volume, improve your organic search? And here's a secret. If you have 133 people talking about your brand and linking back to you organically after earned media pitches, not sponsored posts, you're going to get a lot of Google juice. Or get a feel for your neighborhood. That's another way. Go door to door with gifts for your neighbors. Learn about the neighbors and build that trust relationship. Or are you launching a new product, service, or investment? Most of my clients are launching something. Monitor. Listen before you leap. Google Search is the best tool. I use a tool called SM2 by SDL. There's Radian6 that's expensive. There's Sysomos that's expensive. There's some really great tools. They're expensive, but they're worthwhile. They're all worth it. But Google's a great place to start. I guess searching Twitter for hashtags and searching Facebook and all those other kinds of things are really useful. But you need to spend some time understanding the space. It's not always obvious. You can't just assume that everybody's going to be on Facebook. I did an outreach for a book called Glock, and everybody was talking about Glock and Gaston Glock and the culture and cult of Glock. They were all on message boards. People who were into motorcycles and cars and guns and hunting and off-roading and bicycles, they're all on message boards and forums. You cannot dispute that. They're also on Reddit. And then try out all the tools. It's a buyer's market. SDL, Radian6, Sysomos, Sprout Social, Lithium. Try them all. They're all going to fight over you, and a lot of them are going to give you some pretty generous testing time with each one of them. Internet Rule 34. If it exists, there is porn of it. That's just no matter how funky or kinky I guess right here next to me I have a Jawbone mini Jambox. I bet you there's people who fetish over that, or my iPad one, or my Roku box. I don't know. I'm just looking at things around me. And you can't underestimate, even if you're into B2B, not B and D, B2B, you can find people who are fascinated by the vertical. So I say, Internet Rule 34B, if it exists, there is blog of it. So don't just assume that because something is really fetishy in terms of your product service. I'm not trying not to be kinky here. I mean, what is it, niche? Is it niche or niche? I studied French, so I say niche. But anyway, I think that you can't underestimate the hugeness of the internet and how you can find at least a few hundred, I'd say at least 1,000 people who are into, wax jackets, because I've got wax jacket treatment right over here. Discovery, finding people where they live. Social media is much bigger than just Facebook. There's a multitude. Look everywhere. When we were doing Mezamashi, I even messaged people on Daily Mile. If it exists, there's blog of it. There are more than 1 billion active blogs worldwide. Start with Google. I use GroupHi and InkyBee. I highly recommend Get Little Bird. And I used to use eCairn. It's very cool. It's a French company, and they create these beautiful, I would say, clouds of how people are interrelated. Very interesting stuff. I checked them all out. Discover people where they live. These are 2 screen captures from, the one on the left is from GroupHi. In India, I call them the Arshes because the lead guy is named Arsh, and they help me out. I can, find things according to geography, vertical topic, keyword, language, nationality, so forth. But a lot of these tools can do the same thing. They're both very powerful tools. I'm using GroupHi a lot more these days because I'm actually using it as an A-list CRM or BRM, Blogger Relations Manager. But InkyBee has some beautiful engagement tools and is a heck of a lot less expensive and is an up-and-comer. So those are very interesting tools. Like I said, I think my team mostly uses Google and a couple dedicated blog search engines because Google's blog search is dead. So however you find them, neither of these tools have very good email access. So even if you do find them, if you find the right person, and InkyBee doesn't have any emails, then you still need to go ahead and hunt them down and find their email or find the way to connect to them. If you'll notice, they all have little little buttons. So like if Savvy Sassy Mom has a Facebook, a Twitter, a Google Plus, and a Pinterest, and I know that easily. And the way I found out is I did a search on SM2, which allowed me to find a bunch of blogs with particular keywords. I took the URL, upped it to GroupHi, and it found all the bloggers associated with. InkyBee does the same thing, really great tools, and they're only going to get better. Learn, do they want to be engaged? Matt Collier has an entire freaking page dedicated to how to pitch me. And if you, it's like that awful troll on the bridge, Hello, visitor. You have to answer these 12 questions, otherwise I won't let you across the bridge. Mac Collier, or is it Collier? Mac Collier. So, how to do it? You can just be like, meh, but this is an A-lister. An A-lister, you need to know what the, you need to follow their directions. These journalists, curators, aggregators, group blogs, bloggers, you need to find the most influential person. You need to find out their name and email address. And here's the secret: if contacting them is a pain in your bottom, then maybe it's not worth it. Because I used to do things like do historical Whois research on their domain name, back 8 years using whois.sc. I used to be a techie, like I told you, technologist, and I know all about DNS. And if I found the email address that they had at their registrar before they went private, and I reached out to them, they would have a total cow. So if they're really hard, I tell my research team, dude, if they're hard, if you can't find their name or their email address easy, then just let it go. With regards to forums or listservs, you always need to find the you need to find you need to find the forum owner. You need to find the major domo. You need to find the biggest influencers and moderators. You can't go into forums and message boards and just start messaging. These days, I mean, you can, but it's not okay. You need to find a way of engaging people in message boards and forums at a high level, and then getting their explicit approval, and then working with them in the way that they do it. Might require money, might just require relationship marketing, and then you can go from there. And then social networks. You need to engage with the community before befriending. So you really earnestly engage in communities, then you befriend the community, and then you ask permission before pitching. Collect them. The creme de la creme of influence is the A-list. They're professionals. They will blog for free, but only if it's awesome. Never include A-listers in bulk email pitches. They also have egos. And prepare your kid gloves and your checkbooks. You need to woo them, even if they don't accept money because they're editorially pure. They'll definitely go drinking with you if you choose, or whatever. Like, you need to go ahead and lavish them. And you need to become a persistent bestie. I'm not a persistent bestie enough with Guy Kawasaki, but I think Robert Scoble and Shel Israel and Shel Holtz, and there's a lot of people that I'm connected to all the time. Vendors hire clients to become their daytime BFFs, and so do influencers. Influencers are they crave attention, but they also crave authenticity, ironically. It's kind of a catch-22. The B to D listers, the middle section, the middle class, they often ask for money. They oftentimes lead with advertising rate sheets. If you want to get that thick middle, get some budget for advertising spend. Make sure that you make that very clear when they do the review of the post that has been paid for. You need full disclosure. You get what you pay for, unless, of course, there's a lot of foreign blogs of people who, $20, $50 is a lot for them. Google cares about influence. They don't care about geography unless you're dealing with something that's very local. I tend to put any blogger who asks for money into a do not contact list until recently. Now I keep them aside. Generally, an extra 40 blog posts in addition to the 20, 30, 40, 133 that I'm able to garner is for $5,000 to $10,000 is complete bonus compared to how much people spend on AdWords. So people want to spend that money now, and if I can collect 75 to 100 and it ends up being 10 grand, but those are guaranteed reviews for a lukewarm product, bonus. Mid-range bloggers are easier to access, but earned media is tough with them. People do help out their friends, so curry favor. If you don't have a short lead up, try to go ahead and become their besties. People do favors for each other all the time, and people actually like reciprocal linking still. So I generally include the B to D list bloggers in my long tail email outreach, but here's the long tail. This is what we're all about. There's 1 billion bloggers that you don't consider A-list. 1 billion active bloggers are well out of scope. Remember, no matter how obscure your product or service, there's probably a blog about it. There's probably 1,000. If it exists, there's porn of it. Same for the blogosphere. Collect email addresses, blog name, and maybe location only for easy lists. While I might be willing to chase down the contact info of A to D list bloggers via forums or hunting them down via LinkedIn or Facebook Messenger, Daily Mail or Twitter DMs, I only engage long-tail bloggers if they share their email address gladly. Like I said before, if it's hard to contact them, they'll be pissed. Send everyone in your list a bulk email pitch, but be ready to engage in person. So like I said, you cheat on the front end, but then you have to respond to 1,000 emails from people who hit return. They have questions. They want to make sure you're a real person. They want to talk to your leaders. They want interviews. They want so many things. Every single one is going to treat you like Guy Kawasaki. No, he's a bad example. I don't know who. But don't worry, most people aren't fanboys. A cold pitch is fine if your gift is awesome. You don't need, not everybody in the world is looking for a brand BFF. They're not looking for a lover. They're just looking for a date. So don't be afraid to cold call people. You can't be friends with everybody. So here's an example of the running universe combined last update, US only. I keep everything on a spreadsheet for the long tail, and I'll explain why in just a second, but it's just an easy way to maintain things. One of these days, I said 7 years ago, I'm going to go ahead and put everything into a relational database, and that never happened. I basically I basically collect new lists every campaign because things change so quickly. People are so fickle that if I start to think I have a library of bloggers, I'll end up not. So I work that into the budget so that we can have a new universe every time. I will use an old universe as seed, though, and have them look through and try to refresh it. I call it darning socks. No, it's not true. I've never said that before in my life. Pitch. Pitch it slow and right over the plate. Tell, don't sell. Tell, don't sell. Lead with the news, not the used car. Pitching is speed dating. You don't need to overwrite. Allow people to be intrigued. Less is more. Attention span is, look, squirrel. Pre-masticate message into easy to understand pablum. Don't include, see the mommy bird feeding the baby bird. Pre-mastication. Oh, they say that pre-mastication was the source of the kiss, and I think that's sweet. Don't include attachments or inline content. Use plain text. Maybe even consider not clicking the button that says use a tracking code. Don't BS, brown nose, liar, flatter. Matt Collier, quote, please don't say you read and love my blog, then pitch me on something that I never cover here. Bet you didn't know Matt Collier had such a falsetto. I've never talked to him, but maybe I'll hear from him now. And here's an example of an outgoing email for the Mezamashi Mizuno running project. In the quest to deliver more brilliant running, Mizuno has recently launched the Mezamashi Run project. One aspect of the project is a running shoe giveaway, and I thought you and the readers of Blog Name would be interested in learning more about this. Over the course of the remainder of the year, Mizuno will give away thousands of shoes and exclusive invitations to join the Mezamashi Run project to runners who are looking to experience more euphoric, brilliant Mezamashi running. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you in any way I can. If you're able to post, tweet, or pin, please let me know. I'd love to share with my team. Thank you, May. Look at the email from and see that it's a Mizuno Running News. It's not, MizunoUS.com or whatever, and that there's a link in the middle there, Mizuno Running News. That's because I try to keep the whole outreach off of my client's domain because, email is a cruel mistress. And if anything happens in terms of spam block or blacklisting, I don't want that to influence the mailability of my client. So, and in terms of consistency, I want the email out to be the same email as what I call social media news release, but some other people call microsites or informational landing pages. Here's the microsite. I don't even know if Mizuno Running News still works, but you might want to click on it. I think it does. It's basically a press release that's more visual. It's pretty much a Steal Me page. It's a kitchen sink theory. Don't limit the seminar just to the pitch. Bloggers are libertarian contrarians. They honestly want to find the story that you're not telling them. Give them a lot to look through. Give them options. Steal me, says Mark Collier. Optimize content to be copied and pasted. Pre-embed embed codes. And pre-link and optimize for SEO. You'll notice Mezamashi Run project is hyperlinked so that if someone copies and pastes, they also don't need to include the link to the Mezamashi page. You'll see there's also an embed code beneath the video. There's also embed codes beneath in terms of logos and so forth. And then the magic happens in the inbox. News for your blog from Mizuno Running, news from your blog, news for your blog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There were a lot of people, including negative things. It's like, hi, May, my husband no longer updates his blog. Please don't send me any more damn pitches. And yes, I would not mind doing that, but I would like to know what you are doing. La, la, la. Hi, May, I'm interested in learning more about the Mezamashi project. Hi, May, how exciting. I love Mizuno shoes, etc. All the gambit. You need to respond immediately. There's my French training. Probably sounded awful. And I have access to a huge mailing tool that I spend big bucks on that is able to avoid blacklisting and is magical that my buddy Drac runs. But I found a really easy way for you guys to try it out in small scale. It's a plugin for Google Apps, either through Gmail or Google Apps for your domain. And for free, you can send 100 mail merge emails a day from Gmail. And if you pay for Google Apps, the $5 a month per user, you have access to 200 a day. That would take you weeks to go through the entire 5,000 outreach, but you can do real simple outreaches easily. And if you spend something like, I think, $9 a year or $16 a year, you have access to 1,500 outgoing emails a day. That kind of outreach, if you do that every single day, is going to make Google hate you. But if you're going to be doing some outreach that you want to go ahead and make it easier than doing it by hand, check it out. If you'll see here, like the steps, go to Google Spreadsheet and click add-ons, go to get another mail merge. Click get add-ons there, and you'll go to this site, and you can search for yet another mail merge. Install it. You can start the mail merge. You can import contacts from a group in your contacts. You could look at your quota. When you get in there, you can go ahead and say which recipient is the recipient comment column. There's a column there that says email. It rewrites it as email. I forget what it rewrites it as, but it rewrites it in terms of the proper formatting. Then you can go ahead and do set it up. Send the draft. The way it works is you create a draft, leave it in your draft box with the proper formatting. If you'll see in the top right, hi, first name, just wanted to share cool stuff with the readers of blog name. I would never do that, but I was doing a demo. And it'll rewrite it in terms of email address, and then you can send me a test email, and it'll send you an email like is lower right. Hi, Aaron, I just wanted to share cool stuff with the readers of Aaron Runs Again. Thanks, Chris. So it's very cool, very cool. Highly recommend it. Very inexpensive, very powerful, and so powerful that Google might go ahead and ban your site. So be really cool with it, and go get them. Go get them. Go get them, Tiger. Then there's the analysis part. It all comes down to the bottom line. Track using site analytics tools. I use SM2 by SDL. I embed things like AW Stats and Webalizer. I use Google Analytics in the back end. SM2 allows me to track social media mentions. And there's a lot of free web-based tools as well. A lot of clients want me to find unique monthly visitors of each of the blogs that do mention. You can do that too. You can use a tool like compete.com or similar web, similar site, something like that. And Google Analytics is becoming way more social media savvy. And then you can use track using specialized landing pages. Your client can give you a landing page, and you can use a particular link address that only you use, and they can track from their site as well. Proof is in the pudding for the Mezamashi project. We had 133 Earned Media blog posts, 1,350 tweets and 40 others. Lots and lots of websites. Mizuno Running announces Mezamashi Run Project, Fit Body Now, Who Wants Free Shoes, Get Free Mizuno Shoes and Mezamashi. And then, you can see the top people, Hit the Road Jane, Evolving Through Running, Blogspot, back at Square Zero, all that kind of fun stuff. Here was the final report. This is our campaign wrap report from Mizuno Running campaign. Our campaign efforts generate over 1,350 tweets, 133 blog posts, 40 social media mentions, etc. Very cool. As a result of our campaigns, there are now 212 new pages that are backlinking to Brilliant Run Launch. When searching Mizuno and Google Blogs, the entire first page of results are posts featuring Mizuno Running and the Mezamashi campaign. Score. This is it. Hey, Bob, I did it. 45 minutes. This is what I tell my team because they get really frustrated when you throw them into an inbox with 1,000 people saying, "How'd you get my email?" Mark Collier, why did we email you? You didn't. But hugs, not horns, always assume good intent. And to quote Philo of Alexandria, oftentimes quote to Plato, Ian McLaren, or John Watson, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Now to you, Bob.
Chris, thanks very much. Good presentation. Thanks for putting up your contact info there. We have a few minutes if there are questions, and you can either type them in the question box or raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask it live. Everything is really clear, Chris. No questions. It was a perfect presentation.
Poor Mark Collier. Isn't he going to go ahead and send me a question? A cease and desist?
A cease and desist letter, I think.
Or what is it called when you want someone to stay like 100 feet away from you?
So, Chris, I have a question for you because I think it's an issue you have to deal with very carefully on a daily basis when you're doing this.
Sure.
And how do you manage the ethics side of this and staying in the good graces of the mail servers and not being blacklisted? And it seems like it is a very fine line and a very gray area.
Well, that's why I spend a lot of money on this web hosting, this email selling service, because he's able to create a perfect server, because any one person can go ahead and blacklist any particular thing, right? So, so here's what I do. First of all, I register all my domains using OpenSRS, which is a Canadian registrar, because if you do this kind of outreach and anybody complains to GoDaddy at all on a domain name that you're using, even if you don't use them as an email service, they'll charge you $250 to get back in their good graces, or they'll tell you to get off their damn registrar. So OpenSRS is bulletproof. So that fixes that problem.
Chris, so I do have a couple questions. I don't mean to cut you off there.
No worries.
I want to get to people's
questions. Can I just finish real quick? Let me just finish the last. It'll just be 30 seconds.
Sure.
Secondly, I never do the outreaches using my client's domain, no matter what, and I don't put the seminar on their site. I want to protect them. Thirdly, if you use something like yet another mail merge, you can always I have one friend who goes ahead and sets up on different every campaign he does, he sets up a new Google Apps for domain install. So every single one, there's a new Google install, and so he keeps it moving forward. So every client has their own Google install with their own domain mapping and their own email. And if one of them gets busted, it doesn't influence the rest of his entire campaign. So those are a few ways. With regards to being protected by canned spam, if you direct market them, that's one thing. But because they own platforms, because they have blogs, you're technically speaking part of a loophole, which allows you to reach out to publishers and journalists if you're delivering them mail and delivering them news pitch. So what are the questions, Bob?
So first one is GroupHi a blogger search engine?
It's a blogger search. It's laborious. You can't just like put a search in and then collect the list. You have to do searches and then star each person that you particularly want to add to your groups. But it is a search engine. You can search based on a number of things, including topics or discussion themes, or you can sort via clout or general outreach. And it costs, I think, it starts at around $7,000 a year, which is, you have to be committed to doing it. If you're successful in PR, $7,000 a year is not a lot. But if you're a startup, it might be too much for you. And in that case, I would use something like InkyBee, which is very affordable, or Littlebird, which is also very useful. But GroupHi is definitely an enterprise-level outreach tool.
Okay. Next question is, email use by the 25 and under crowd, which includes many bloggers, seems pretty low, especially compared to messaging and SMS, etc. Your thoughts on using email to reach this demographic?
Can you repeat that question? I didn't understand.
Yeah. So Matt wants to know, feels that people that are 25 and under don't use email as much anymore, and a lot of these younger people are bloggers, and so their email usage is low compared to SMS and messaging. So what are your thoughts on using email to continue to reach this younger demographic of bloggers?
First of all, I think nobody's happy with SMS messaging. It's so invasive. People really have a hard time with inbox. People have a relatively hard time if you reach out to them using Twitter direct message, or even @ or @ replies, or even things like LinkedIn and so forth. I think that be careful if you're reaching out to an influencer as a part of a direct marketing campaign. That's one thing. I think if I started receiving pitches from someone I didn't know via text, because you have my mobile right here, if I started receiving text saying, hey, check out my new plugin for Google, whatever, for Google Apps, or check out my new hip lo.co, or whatever the stupid, awful social network is, I don't know what I would do. I'd pretty much freak out. I think that younger people, it's hard to reach people on Tumblr. It's hard to reach people who are on Pinterest and all these other kinds of things, because there's not a natural way to do things in bulk. But I would think SMS messaging and direct messaging would be limited to people I knew, or to people who are real A-listers, so that I could put a lot of resources into making sure that that situation is handled and not considered to be spamming.
So Chris and Matt had a follow-up. So he wasn't exactly proposing using SMS for the outreach. He wanted to know your thoughts on using email to reach that younger demographic.
I just, I don't know how to reach that younger demographic unless they've adopted a traditional method of being reachable. I mean, if they're on Facebook or LinkedIn, if they are accessible in a way that would allow me to message them. If someone's not my friend on Facebook and I try to message them, it goes into their spam folder directly, right? So it would need to be an A-list outreach for me to take the time to try to befriend them as me. And I have a staff. Like, my staff doesn't necessarily want to befriend people on their Facebook. Like, that's their own private thing. So the way we do that, and the way we do a long tail blogger outreach, is you got an email and a first name. Hell, you got an email, then we're willing to play with you. You're willing to take the first step towards not being hard to reach. If you're hard to reach, you're never going to succeed in this place. People want to give you money. They want to, if you go ahead and say, I don't like email, then you're just not going to get the pitches. You're not going to get the free makeup, I haven't even dealt with YouTube. YouTube is an entirely different beast. It's so amazing and so awesome that I can't even understand it, but everybody there is an A-lister, even the D-listers. Everybody there, you have to woo them to cover your stuff. And even so, how do you reach out to them en masse? You can't. You have to find a way of engaging them. You have to find a way of reaching them and getting them to cover. And you need to get an address from them so you can send them, fancy lipsticks or a cool, what is it called, runner's box or a stride box full of, electrolyte powders. So I think the only way you can do what Matt is asking is to spend time over time reaching to them where they live, which I would be calling kind of a modified A-list, because an A-lister isn't just Guy Kawasaki, it's anybody in your vertical who you desperately want to connect with. So that could be like, Olga, what's her name? Olga something on YouTube, Olga K. Olga K is freaking awesome, man. If I had any beauty care products or anything, clothes, shoes, fashion, anything, I'd want Olga K to talk about it on YouTube. I would do anything to get her to do something on behalf of a client. So in terms of me, Guy Kawasaki, particular client, wouldn't be the A-list, it would be Olga K.
I guess
so that would be a modified A-list of what.
Yeah, I guess actually just, Matt, to add my own view on that as well. I think other ways you can do outreach besides email is that I've used when trying to reach people is Twitter. Sending them a tweet and trying to connect with them that way. I'll sometimes include my email address and ask them to email me back. And then messaging on LinkedIn has worked pretty well as well.
And those are A-list things. Like I do that only for A-list outreaches because I'm using.
Well, Chris, you broke out there. Dropped you here.
Like the only way I have enough, or if I'm actually tweeting on behalf of the client, I guess I would have access to theirs. But that just takes that's not like, that's an A-list outreach.
Matt, I hope that answered your question. If not, let me know and we can bring you into the conversation. Just a follow-up question on the Group High one. Steve is asking, what about Cision? Is it Cision or Cision? Do they have a similar platform?
I'm sure they do, right? That's part of Vocus, right? Cision and Vocus are merging and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think they have a CRM tool that's probably very similar. I think that they probably, they always throw a great party down here in DC at the Gaylord in Washington Harbor, and they're super awesome, and I simply adore Jeff Livingston and Tinu and all those guys. I think that they probably have an amazing tool, and they're way more fluid. They're fluid from, all the way from traditional PR journalism all the way down to social media engagement. So,
right. I think they've now renamed to Outmarket, and coincidentally enough, I actually ran into the CEO this morning at a conference. So, Steve, if you need an introduction there, I'm happy to do so. Just reach out later.
Do they call their new offices the Outhouse?
I don't know. Do we have any other questions before we wrap the webinar up?
I'm not joking about this contact info. If you want to ask me more information, feel free to pop me. I'll even respond to SMSs if you totally want to add me to your.
Chris, you've given us everything but your home mailing address, I think. So.
I know.
And probably easy to find now.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, Chris, thank you very much for the presentation today. I think it's been very insightful and helpful for a lot of people. And look forward to having the next one. Attendees, please fill out the survey as you leave the webinar. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on topics that you'd like to learn more about for future webinars. Focus that we're trying to do here at Social Media Monthly is better education. And there's so much to learn and so much to understand that there's just not enough hours in the day.
And this is being recorded, so you can always refer to where when and where it's going to be uploaded.
Yeah, it'll be posted online in a few days onto the main website, and I will probably send out an email to all the attendees pointing them to that. So, Chris, again, thank you very much, and everyone, please have a nice weekend.